Welcome back. The United Nations team tasked with investigating alleged chemical weapon strikes in Syria arrived in Lebanon on Saturday. The team crossed the land border into neighboring Lebanon after leaving their Damascus hotel earlier in the morning. The U.S. made clear on Friday that it would punish Syrian President Bashar al-Assad for the brutal and flagrant chemical weapons attack that it says killed more than 1,400 people in Damascus last week. No decision yet, says the U.S. President, but Barack Obama is reiterating his stance on Syria that some action must be taken following last week's suspected chemical weapons attack on a Damascus suburb.
In no event are we considering any kind of military action that would involve boots on the ground, that would involve a long-term campaign, but we are looking at the possibility of a limited, narrow act that would help make sure that not only Syria but others around the world understand that the international community cares about maintaining this chemical weapons ban and norm.
And there you go. That's a video posted on YouTube that's said to show the aftermath of such an attack. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry outlined the details of declassified findings. He said they demonstrate that the Assad regime unleashed chemical weapons on that Damascus suburb last Wednesday. Kerry also put a new number on the death toll.
We know where the rockets were launched from and at what time. We know where they landed and when. The United States government now knows that at least 1,429 Syrians were killed in this attack, including at least 426 children.
Meanwhile, Haim Malka of the Center for Strategic and International Studies says the U.S. is in a difficult position either way.
If it uses force unilaterally against Syria, it's going to be criticized for using unilateral force in the Middle East again. If it doesn't do anything, it's going to be criticized for standing by while the Assad regime uses chemical weapons.
A sixth U.S. Navy warship has now arrived in the eastern Mediterranean. It joins other vessels that can carry cruise missiles able to strike targets more than 1,600 kilometers away with pinpoint accuracy. A U.S. official also confirmed there are 2 Navy submarines in those waters. Sources at the Pentagon says the 6 Navy ships there have Tomahawk missiles that are satellite guided, so they can go right to the target that they are aimed at. And military planes flew over Turkey's Incirlik Air Base on Saturday. Incirlik is a NATO air base outside the city of Adana, where U.S. troops are also stationed. It is located in the southern city of Adana, some 100 kilometers from the Syrian border. Earlier this year, some of the Dutch Patriot missile systems were set up in Incirlik Air Base in a move aimed at bolstering Turkey's defense against the threat of air attacks from Syria. Meanwhile, a London-based military analyst, Professor Malcolm Chambers, said that President Barack Obama will likely still go it alone despite general skepticism, and that strikes could conceivably happen this weekend. Chambers predicted airstrikes made from a U.S. warship and said any campaign would be short-lived.
I think that, I don't know how short it is, but I think it will be days, not weeks. And the objective will be to punish Syria to a degree sufficient enough to deter further use of chemical weapons. I think that will be the primary overwhelming objective of this strike. Now, there's of course a risk that things will get out of hand and we'll get into a situation which nobody's planning for, but that's what they're planning for right now.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has dismissed U.S. claims that Syria's regime used chemical weapons, describing them as utter nonsense. Mr. Putin challenged Washington to present the evidence behind its claims to the UN Security Council. Speaking to journalists in the Russian Far Eastern city of Vladivostok, Mr. Putin urged Mr. Obama, as a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, to think about future victims in Syria before using force. Russia, a key ally of Syria, has previously warned that any unilateral military action bypassing the UN Security Council would be a direct violation of international law. Thousands of Shiite Houthi Yemenis took to the streets on Friday to demonstrate their anger against the possibility of military action in Syria. Protesters marched through the capital Sana'a. The Houthis are an important tribe belonging to the Shiite Zaidi sect, whose Hashemite line ruled for 1,000 years before the 1962 revolution. They account for about 25% of Yemen's population of 25 million. It controls the northern province of Sada and parts of the neighboring provinces of Omran, Al-Juf, and Hajjah, bordering top oil exporter Saudi Arabia. And over in Sydney, hundreds rallied against foreign military intervention in Syria as well. Supporters of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad carried portraits of him and waved the Syrian flag. Local media reported that protesters denied that Assad used chemical weapons and accused the Australian government of bowing to pressure from the White House. Meanwhile, forces of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad are proceeding with their military operations in Kabul and Jobar in Damascus, according to state Syrian television. Syrian soldiers were seen driving through Kabul in northern Damascus on military tanks and claiming to have captured armed terrorists in Jobar. Despite the U.S. threat, Syrian soldiers interviewed by state television said they did not have any fears.